This episode of the Infamous Podcast is brought to you by the Flying Pork Apparel Company.
Do you have a moment to talk about the Flying Pork Apparel Company? We specialize in designer t-shirts, several of which are available on our website, flyingporkapparel.com. But we also do custom designs for special events and group functions. The Flying Pork Apparel Company, fielding nearly all of your needs involving t-shirts. flyingporkapparel.com.
flyingporkapparel.com. Designer t-shirts for naked bodies. Rated PG-13.
Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian. Darryl's with me. We've got a whole bunch of cool shit to talk about this week. We've got news, we've got the boys, and Darryl, I got to like 40% way through the campaign.
Oh, wow. Well, so just so you know, you're not going to get 100%.
Yeah.
Like, you get through the story and it's going to be at like 60-something%.
Sure.
So you're actually closer than you thought.
Yeah.
That's what I realized when I was like, oh, this is the end game. Okay.
And I felt your pain with the matchmaking because I could not find a match to play last night.
Yeah, I just play with my companions.
Which I thought this was supposed to be a really popular game.
Yeah, it's a matchmaking problem, which we can go into later. Yeah, there's some serious technical issues with this game, and that's why some people are slamming it so hard. Which I understand the frustration, but overall, I really enjoy the game. But
I mean, our boy on YouTube, young Rippa 95, Eric July, has been crushing the live streams with this game, just like marathon sessions. So
yeah, now he's a lot of times playing with members and some of his friends. So
cool.
that's one of those things where you party up in teams.
Okay,
it's probably easy, but like the matchmaking. Although today, I'd like playing with my companions, but it took me too long. It took me like 10 seconds to click on the launch mission, and by that time I already had another person that had joined in my strike team. We should
try and team up.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's different. It's definitely different playing with someone else. And
okay.
I know Eric Rippa said that it's a lot different playing on Brutal, which again I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near there. I still.
So.
I die on easy mode, so regularly.
Yeah, so.
All right, so news. Lots of news this week. Lots of Mandalorian news. So this is we should change the name of the show from Infamous Podcast to Mandalorian Cast.
This is the way.
Yeah. Instead of the Infamous Podcast, this is the Waycast. I'm surprised that's not taken yet.
Or we have spoken.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. All right. But first, IGN broke some news earlier. And I shared this with you, right? Or did you share it with me?
Yeah. No, you shared it with me.
Yeah, because David sent it to me. Anyway, so Tatiana Maslany, I think we said that right, from what's it called? Orphan Black.
Orphan Black, yeah.
Is rumored to be She-Hulk.
Which, if I thought it was so it's not a confirmed.
The hold on, I'm trying to pull up the story here. So I mean, it's on Deadline. It's on Variety that says she's doing it. So yeah, let's call this as a fact. Even Mark Ruffalo says, "Welcome to the family, cuz," on Twitter, and he quotes the Dateline story. So cool. Isn't she like 5'1"?
I actually don't know her height, but
I thought she was little. I did not like Orphan Black, but I did like her.
Yeah, and that's a show that I've tried to watch a few times, and she's 5'4", so. And every time she's on the screen, I mean, she's really good. But I do want to finish because I've heard really good things about it. It's just the first few episodes that I've watched. I mean, they're okay, but it's it's like in a lot of first half of first seasons of a lot of shows we've watched. There, it's kind of, it's building the world and everything like that. But she is really good, and this is a very good addition to the MCU Plus, or whatever you want to call it, the shows on the Plus. So
it's the MTVU, the Marvel TV universe, or MSU, the Marvel streaming universe. Since there's no more TV shows.
I was about to say, isn't that Mississippi State?
Yes. Anyway, so no, I think this is cool news. I mean, I think she is like I said, I think she's a really good actress. I think that there's a lot that she is able to bring to the table as far as being a known entity goes, and being a solid actress that we know can play multiple roles and play multiple ways. Now, it's not like they're gonna Lou Ferrigno her and paint her green and have her wear stretchy shorts, but she's right. No, I think she's good, and it'll be interesting. It says here. Okay, so it says it should be noted in the IGN article. It should be noted that it's not an official announcement from either Marvel or the Plus, who both declined to comment for the trades. So this is in the IGN article. So I don't know. I mean, I think if all these people are running with it, and Mark Ruffalo, I mean, he's an unreliable narrator at best. So I think it's cool. I mean, Jessica Gao, the showrunner, tweeted a green heart. So about the story when Deadline shared it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this is cool news. It's breaking. It's really cool. Like I said, I liked her. I liked the different characters she played. I was just not a big fan of the story of Black Orphan.
So yeah, I agree in the sense of this is really, really good news for
This is the best actor for the job, and with Sasha Banks taking a huge role in Star Wars, that was the person who I thought might be a really good Jennifer Walters, but I think this works. I think she can do a lot of different things, and this is awesome.
Good job, folks.
Good job. All right, so jumping to the Mandalorian. I'm just putting different. I'm putting different emphasis on different syllables all day. So the Mandalorian season 2 trailer landed this week, and it blew up the internet.
Yes, and it was to me it was the perfect trailer in the sense of, again, this is not a new show that has to get you interested in it. It already knows you're interested.
I disagree with that statement.
Okay.
I think anyways. I think because it was not a to us it was a hit, right? To a lot of Star Wars fans it was just okay. To a lot of people it was just okay. Like, my wife is a big Star Wars fan, and she didn't love it. You know what I mean?
See, I see, and this is the thing. It just really depends. A lot of Star Wars fans also loved it, so it really just depends on where you're coming from. I'm not going to say it was like a runaway hit, because it wasn't. But again, a lot of the people I listened to, really, 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 really liked it. Not without faults.
Yeah.
By the way. But what my point is, this is not a new thing. I know there are people out there, like you said, that didn't like it or thought it was just okay. I would say the majority of people thought it was okay or better. Again, that okay.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree 100%.
So the thing is with this, you don't want to. We always get on movies and shows for showing too much, and this is one of those that didn't show much at all.
I think it showed that the world of the Mandalorian season 2 is going to be much bigger.
Yes, that's a very good point.
They were on Tatooine. They were back to Tatooine. But we know they're going to go there because of the character Timothy Olyphant's playing. We know that Tamura Morrison is supposedly going to show up. So if that is Boba Fett, he's digesting in the mouth of the Sarlacc, and I'm assuming he's gonna be pretty gnarled.
Yeah, he escaped. Remember the EU. Oh, I'm sorry, the EU doesn't count.
That did not happen yet. So I don't know. I thought it was a good trailer. I thought it was what it needed. You made an excellent point, because I said it was fine, but where's Ahsoka? But they didn't need to have Ahsoka in there. And they put in Sasha. Sasha Banks showed up briefly in a blink and you miss her. We don't know. There's a rumor that she's Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
right.
which I think, part of that is because at the time she had purple hair, and her hair is multicolored like Sabine's. So who knows who she's actually playing? But if she is Sabine, I think that is just fantastic casting. I love Sasha. She's one of my top 5 all-time favorite wrestlers. Never mind the fact that she's my all-time favorite women's wrestler. So, I'm excited for her to be added to this. We'll see. I caution her as Sabine, because I don't know if we know if she can act or not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Just acting in the world of the WWE is not the same as acting, in front of, television or a monitor for a television show or a movie. One of the things I liked about this trailer, again, like you said, she could be playing Sabine, she might not be. There's just so much, and again, I will say I've purposefully haven't done a lot of research into some of the stuff going on. Some of the stuff we've talked about, I haven't tried to dig any deeper than what we've talked about.
Yeah,
it's because it's rarely that with the internet and everything nowadays, it's very easy to get I won't say very easy, but it's a lot easier to get spoilers, and not just spoilers, but cast news of who's playing who in this show or this movie. And I sometimes like actually going in cold and really not knowing what the heck is going to happen.
Well, I think that's why Baby Yoda was the child was such a big hit, right? Because nobody knew about it. Nobody knew it was coming. It came from literally out of nowhere and smacked you in the face with its dumb green ears.
Beautiful baby green ears.
Anyway.
Just want to nibble on them.
You're a Netflix subscriber, aren't you?
We can cut that.
No, you're a Netflix subscriber. I'm leaving that in. You're on a list now, buddy.
We'll do it live.
Anyway, but no, it's it's one of those things where we got to see some X-wings. We got to see it opened with the Razor Crest in a state of disrepair, like we've never seen. I did find one thing is interesting. It looks like they go to Ilum, and Ilum is a very famous planet in Star Wars. It's where Yoda takes Ahsoka and the younglings to find their kyber crystals. Ahsoka goes back there a couple times in her book. That's where they end up at the end of Clone Wars. Ilum becomes the Starkiller base. So, it's a very central ice planet. So it also houses kyber crystals, where the Jedi go to find their kyber crystals,
which is kind of maybe a little bit important,
right?
Yes, I must have had the Expanse on the brain because for a split second I just thought of Illis when you said Ilum.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a huge part of Fallen Order as well.
Okay. I haven't gotten to that part.
Yeah, dude, that's the only game I finished in the last 3 years.
I'm gonna have to get back into that one. So. But yeah, good trailer. I'm looking forward to it. October 30th.
Yep.
They're just doing one episode, right?
Yeah, they do one a week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's only 8 episodes again, so it's one a week, which is fine because it's a tentpole show. I think if they put it all out at once, it wouldn't be as special.
No.
So just like the boys. All right, so while this really good trailer came out, it wasn't without its controversy, I think is a good way to put it. So Grace Randolph from YouTube, her show is Beyond the Trailer, We've talked about her before. I used to be a huge Grace fan. I stopped being a Grace fan a while ago, and I definitely recognize her place in the industry, and she definitely gets scoops, and she knows people. She has contacts. She was able to verify this by 2 sources, she claims. But let's look at this as a rumor. So I in the show notes have a link to Bounding Into Comics. I also have a link to Grace's original video, which we're not going to play, but you should definitely watch just to see it from the horse's mouth. And Grace is not a horse; she's very attractive. So I just want to make sure nobody gets offended there. But Pedro Pascal apparently quit filming The Mandalorian halfway through season 2's production. And after all the stink of Gina Carano not wanting to wear a mask, it turns out that Pedro Pascal didn't want to wear a mask.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did there. Yeah, so he wanted to not wear the mask. He wasn't comfortable in the suit. He wanted more money. He wanted his face to be shown more often. So he went to Favs and Filoni and said, hey, I've got this face, and most people only recognize it from the mountain crushing it into just like a watermelon, and I wanna have this visage shine bright. And they're like, that's not the way. And so then he turned around and went to, and again allegedly went to the higher ups at Lucasfilm, which is Kathleen Kennedy, and said, hey, I wanna be the face of the show. I don't want to just be the voice of the show. And they came back and they're like, that's great. Cool story, bro. If this isn't the way, you can take a hike. And he took a hike, allegedly.
This is, and again, allegedly, this is that entitlement of a Hollywood star.
Did you use air quotes when you said star? Because you should definitely use air quotes when you said star.
This is of a Hollywood figure, I should say, actually, because you're right, and this encompasses a lot of Hollywood. This I'm better than you type sentiment, and the reason I say that is because Pedro, you signed the contract. You knew what the character was about. This isn't like one of those instances where, he signs the contract and then on day one they say, oh, by the way, we're going to change things up. We're going to have you wear a helmet all season.
Yeah.
That's not how it was.
So, yeah.
The character, the main part of the character and the credo of the Mandalorian is that they do not take off the helmet.
Right.
So unless you want them to write scenes where you take off the helmet when you're by yourself eating your soup with Baby Yoda, although he's a living thing, so he couldn't take it off
by himself. Baby Yoda was out playing with the weird swamp kids, eating their frogs.
Right.
Frog gigging, if you will.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, a couple weeks ago when we first heard this rumor starting to float, we talked about it. People were thinking it was Gina Carano, and I said it's probably Pedro Pascal because he's a bitch. You did.
You absolutely said that.
He is a little bitch. And I think so I was at Celebration when he came out, and he talked a really, really good game. He was like, I'm happy to be here. They brought me in, and they told me they made this role for me, which is 100% true. And the fact that he can't recognize the gift that's been given to him. Whereas, he spent less time on set than Gina Carano did. Gina was in 3 episodes. The Mandalorian is in nearly every scene. And if you watch the Star Wars gallery on D+, there are 2 other actors, stuntmen, who are in the costume most of the time. One of the guys is a gunslinger, who is a quick draw weapons expert, and the other guy's a pretty badass mixed martial artist. So, Pedro, just do some voiceover, man. We just need you for ADR. Feel free to just fuck right off. In my opinion.
And again, based on the story that Favreau and Filoni are like, hey, you are welcome to, turn your little ass, the other direction and walk off set.
Yeah.
That's what Star Wars has been missing, I think, is that people that have a blueprint, people that have a plan, and they're going to stick to that plan, and they're not going to change it for, reasons outside of Star Wars, meaning, a lot of the, stuff going on in, the world and what should the morality police, or I guess you would say.
If you want to do an SJW Star Wars movie, you missed your boat with Rian Johnson. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah. Oh no. It shouldn't. Or kowtowing to actors or actresses for, trying to hold you hostage, saying, "Hey, I'll walk off the set.
Bye-bye."
Fine.
I'll be honest. Like, while he's the titular character, he's the least important character on the show. 100%. There are dozens of Mandalorians out there.
Right.
The Armorer, who is my favorite character on the show, she's the Mandalorian. Let's just focus on her.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I love her.
She can drag Baby Yoda around in his cool little carriage and, try and find some space sorcerers to dump him off on.
Yeah, she was the big bad in Supernatural.
Yeah, that's Emily Swallow. Swallow. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she's really pretty. She's a good actress. She's a great voice. She
has great command.
Just like presence.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, look, we wrote the fact that they wrote this character for him, and then he's in.
And then he goes to tell mommy and daddy. Yeah, he goes to the principal.
Yeah, he's like, I spit on this.
It's like I don't know. And here's the thing: is I don't see a lot of people coming to his aid, like jumping behind and like saying, you know what, that's probably not right. He's a good guy. He's a stand-up guy. Because it says here he became difficult on set. So when he went to Lucasfilm and the Mandalorian team said, you know what, you should just go, and he did, and that happened halfway through, and so they had to go through and make the change. And Grace said, I've heard the breakup was pretty bad on both sides. Jon Favreau does not mess around. He is a 100% awesome filmmaker, and it's just. He's not going to put up with that kind of stuff. And, the fact that they brought him in is fine. And here's the thing, is Gina Carano shared a story with Entertainment Weekly where this is really her first dramatic television role. And she said that Pedro Pascal would take the helmet off when they were doing scenes together so she could look him in the eye.
Right.
How is that not enough for you, man? How do you not understand? The story comes first. Your little, like, me. Like, come on. Like, grow up. You're a grown-ass man. Quit acting like a baby.
And it reminds me, and it was funny, we were talking about this my Muay Thai class today, where how certain actors, we don't have to mention their name, and not him, or WWE or wrestling stars, they start paying attention to the headlines and thinking this stuff is real in the sense of there's an ego involved with it. So I can't get beat by this guy or this guy or that guy, or I can't take this many punches in this scene because it would make me look weak.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a movie. It's a role.
Are you talking about the Fast and Furious movies?
Yes, I am.
Because they've all become superheroes who are the greatest fighters in the history of the world, and they'd all be able to take Alexander the Great down in one move. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Michelle Rodriguez in consecutive films beat Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I don't know. It's just, it's weird. I don't know. You've got so much happening in the show. Like, I think there was an interview with Jon Favreau in it from Entertainment Weekly a while ago. He says, it's called The Mandalorian. There's not The Mandalorian. It's, the Mandalorian could be anybody. Like, they could stick that moniker on Sasha Banks. She could become the Mandalorian, and it could just be the show could morph into Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian, hunting for Ezra Bridger or whatever.
Right. Yeah. This is the thing. Sometimes people think they're more important than they really are.
It's all about story. This is the way. I have spoken.
Yes.
So, I mean, what more? I mean, what more can we ask? It's like, I hope he comes to his senses because I do like him in the role. And the one show he was on USA with the dude from Rescue Me, Graceland, I liked him in it. Everybody liked him as the Red Viper. He was really cool. He was kind of cool with the voice work that he did and the little bit he was in the suit on The Mandalorian season 1. So it's like, dude, you got dusted in an episode of Buffy. Come on, get over it.
you got put in a meat grinder in the Kingsman Golden Circle.
Did he? Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool fight too.
Yeah, I mean, he had the cool laser lasso. I mean, that was pretty neat. Kingsman 2, underrated movie in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. It's not as good as the first one, don't get me wrong, but it's still really good. But yeah, it's I don't know, dude. I think I hope he sees like these reactions that people are getting, and the fact that it's not like, oh, Pedro, you're so wrong. They should let you see your beautiful face. You know, at work today they were all joking around about they don't like wearing masks because they don't like to cover up their beauty. You know, it was all in a joke. You know, everyone wears a mask, but still, it was like they're like, I don't want to cover this beautiful face. I've only got so much time on this planet. So, but yeah, so definitely check out the Bounding into Comics article. They break it down pretty good, and then they have a link to Grace's story. But I also linked. Excuse me. I linked in the show notes.
You're getting tired of this story already?
Kind of. We've been talking about this story for 3 days. I put the link in the show notes to Grace's video. So, yeah. Any other news you want to talk about? Big Ten's coming back. Jason Whitlock's the man. You know,
that's one thing I am stoked about is the Big Ten coming back. Even though I just read that a couple of Michigan's top players are, and I think this is going to happen. Is that and actually they're not the only ones. The top Penn State's top players for going the season and pretty much getting ready for the draft. So you'll see a little bit of that all over the place.
You know, I think those guys are going to suffer in the draft.
And especially the ones on Michigan, it's like, dude, you're Nico Collins. Yes, you're a specimen as a receiver. You need to continue to prove more. Jalen Mayfield, you're I think he is rated the number 7 offensive tackle. But
you know what I just heard you say? Wah 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 wah.
Yeah,
Sports ball. Wah 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 wah.
But yeah, I'm excited for the Big Ten to be back. I'm just excited for
I have a weird question. There's 14 teams in it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be the Big 14?
Yeah, it doesn't flow.
Or like the Big 7X something, 7 squared. The 7 squared. That's what I'm gonna start calling them. The 7 squared.
That would be 49 though.
Okay, 7 times 2. The 7 times 2. That rolls right off the tongue. Branding. All right, let's talk about The Boys, season 2, episode 4. Nothing like it in the world. And nothing like it in the world is absolutely the fact that Starlight likes all the candy bars that serial killers like. I think Almond Joys are delicious. I think they're a great candy bar. And the fact that Almond Joy got so much love and hate in this episode was hilarious. The little computer girl from Vought, who when Black Noir was looking for Billy Butcher, and he sits down and she's got the Almond Joy and she holds it out and he just takes it and throws it away. Really made me laugh.
He has that can, like the garbage can. And he says so much without saying anything, which that's one of the reasons I love his character.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Hey, another guy who's in a mask that we don't get to see his face. just saying.
Yeah.
He doesn't even get to talk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I know, right?
Anyway. Yeah, so let's talk about Butcher first. Because I have a lot of thoughts on like the end of the episode and how it ties back to the comic. But Butcher in this episode catches up with his wife. Rebecca has a really, really interesting reunion.
Yeah, so going back to last season, and when I tell people about The Boys, and when I've talked about other people that have watched it, I think I've said this to you before. And don't get me wrong, I get where he's coming from, but Butcher is not a good guy. He's a perfect anti-hero because he's get the job done no matter what, and he showed that when he just basically left the boys to their own devices. Now, granted, he said he had faith in Mother's Milk, which I still love that name, and Frenchie, to get out. But you know what? He's one of those that he comes across as, hey, if it's getting in the way of me getting in Becca, I'll let you burn. And basically told Huey that, 2 episodes ago, where he says, you get in my way again, I'll fucking kill you.
Well, I feel like Mallory really was succinct with it at the beginning of this episode when she gave him the directions to Becca, and she said, I pointed you in Homelander's direction and let you go. Yeah. Consequences be damned, knowing what I knew. Yeah.
So, yeah, and they're it's in a way they're peas in a pod in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she taught him everything he knew, right? Mm-hmm. And then Becca, even just kind of fast forwarding to the end, she's like, "No, you're not gonna keep this kid. You're not gonna love him. You don't even like him, and the fact that he's a soup, you like him even less." So yeah,
and he lets his true thoughts go. He's a damn soup freak.
Yeah.
Which, again, saying despite the circumstances of how he was conceived, that is still her child, and for you to say something like that, I mean, yeah, but again, she already knew that, so it was just confirmation for us. It was more confirmation for us as the audience to see where he was. Even though, I mean, again, if you know Butcher and how he feels about soups, a lot of people, a lot of viewers already kind of felt that, but to actually hear him say it.
Well, I mean, like, you go back to the first season when they found the baby superhero farm, and there was the baby with the laser eyes that he used to cut those guards up.
Diabolical.
That's whenever something gross happens, he says it's diabolical, because when they drove through Lucy the whale.
Rest in peace, Lucy.
Yeah, R.I.P. What is it? Rest in power? Is that what they say now? I don't know the difference.
Rest in water, Lucy.
Poor Lucy. Anyway, but he even tells the baby, he's like, you keep your nose clean or I'll come for you.
Right.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I could totally see you killing a baby who accidentally shot its mom through the head with its laser eyes. So yeah, it was a really, we didn't get a lot of Butcher in this episode, but what we did get really moved his story forward.
Yes.
And I like that.
So, yeah. And so now that he got to the point of what he's been working for all these 8 years, well, in the sense of finding his wife. So, from last season, I should say, because he's always thought he thought she was dead, but then he was like, no, because I remember he destroyed the tombstone.
Right.
Because it was like, she's not
dead.
He
never gave up hope that she died.
Yeah. So the fact that he finds her, they had that night together, and then she says, look, you got to go. You have to move on because you're not going to accept my son, and I'm not going to give him up for you.
And can we just talk for a second about Rebecca, who was Patty Spivot on The Flash, who is played by Chantel Van Satten, who is fantastic in that role.
Yeah, I love her.
And she portrays the hurt that Becca is feeling by telling the person who she loves more than anyone outside of Ryan that you have to go. This isn't going to work.
Yes.
And you can see it's destroying her the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. again, she was my favorite part when she was in the Flash and the probably maybe what 8 or 10 episodes she was in. I absolutely loved her in that. And again, I love her in this.
Yep.
She's like you said, that scene, where she's telling him to go and she's like, hey, and then at the end she says, in 60 seconds, all the guards are going to be over here. Mm-hmm. That was just like, like you said, that was metaphysical ripping of her heart.
Yeah.
Into.
So, I think the next thing is Homelander. So Elizabeth Shue was back in this episode. Yuck.
So the funny thing is, and I think I told you this, when I first saw her come in with the lingerie, I thought, wait a minute. And again, because the whole swerving of things, how a lot of shows do that, I was thinking, wait a minute, was that really her? When she was basically when Homelander executed her in the finale.
So I thought he was having a mental breakdown, and he was seeing her that she wasn't really there at all.
So that was the first thing until the milk, which again, he makes it very difficult to enjoy drinking milk. I'll tell you that much. But it wasn't until like they left that scene before they came back, and I said, wait a minute, could this be the doppelganger?
See, I forgot all about Doppelganger.
I did too.
I forgot all about him. So, and it turns out, spoilers, it was Doppelganger, who he has up in a cabin somewhere, pretending to be Madeline Stillwell.
And again, we're talking about acting, and we've always talked about how good Anthony Starr is as Homelander.
Yep.
And that scene where Doppelganger turns back to himself, the look of disgust and how he's like, this is like one of the most powerful man in the world,
right? And
he is just like a kid seeing a spider or something, and he is just like closes in on himself.
Yeah,
he won't.
He won't look at him. He won't turn around. He's just like staring off into nothing, and he's like, change back, change back right now. And so so there's that. That was the first visit. And then the second visit is way more disturbing.
I don't even know what the
so I suspected that Doppelganger wasn't long for the world when he first showed up. Like, I was actually surprised there was a second interaction. But he gets there and she's like sticking her fingers in his mouth, and it's like gross and like creepy and like strangely as Homelander can be. And then he turns into Homelander, but still in the lingerie, which was really weird. And Anthony Starr is not a super tall guy. If he were 5'10", I'd be surprised, right? And you kind of saw him as like when it was Doppelganger as Homelander in the lingerie as this frail, weak little creature. And then the offer that he made, which we don't need to, like, you can watch that for yourself. That led to his death.
And the line that it ain't even gay
right
if you're doing it to yourself was the line of, I mean, I don't, but it's funny and disturbing, but it's also very poignant because like you said, Doppelganger wasn't long for this world, but when Doppelganger decides to for reasons get on his knees, he says, "You're disgusting." And he wasn't talking about Doppelganger. He wasn't just talking about Doppelganger,
no.
I should say.
Right. It was he was taking a good hard look inside.
Yeah. And this is
so real quick, I have a question. So like Gecko, who was meeting like people in hotels and letting them hack bits of him off for money, how many times do you think Doppelganger said that to like a John or a Jill? It's not gay because it's you.
I would guarantee that Doppelganger has done that
so,
quite a few times.
Yeah.
because then that also plays into that whole narcissism and people that are really in love with themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point of unhealthiness.
Well, I think he judged that situation completely wrong too, because Homelander does not love himself. Homelander has a tremendous inferiority complex. He hates himself in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Oh no, for Homelander, it's different. Like there's a love-hate. You can like. Yeah, I don't want to get into the the definition of words, but yeah, you're right. Homelander does. He absolutely hates himself, and he's always looking for approval from people.
Yeah.
As as Stormfront says, and he's despite being so powerful, he's so very weak.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's a good place to leave this one, because then we had a brief Homelander Starlight interaction where Annie put her big girl panties on and stood up to him. And, when he's like, why didn't you kill Huey? And she's like, because I'm not a fucking murderer. I don't straight up murder people like you do. I'm a hero. And like, that was awesome.
Yeah. And I love Erin Moriarty and love her. It's her character, love her as an actress.
Yep.
Love her as, her character in itself. And to see her, again, she's probably I know I'd be thinking I'm going to die. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to cower.
I have nothing to lose.
Right. So. And I love that. Tell me if I'm lying.
Yeah.
Just like stares him down.
Yeah. I mean, she's like, so Annie Starlight has found this like great strength in the last few episodes that I really like. And she was the character I liked probably most in season 1. And I really like seeing the growth that she has coming. So Homelander had another scene with Maeve where he outed her on Maria Menounos. It's the interview show. And what about the line when Maria Menounos asked, like, does Vought not like diversity? And he's like, wow, Maria Menounos, coming with the heavy questions. Like, it was really kind of funny because he was deflecting and pausing, trying to figure out what he was gonna say.
Yeah.
But
check your facts.
Check your facts. We've got A-Train. He's black. We've got Black Noir.
Hold on. That was after A-Train was booted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I was gonna go back to that one, but we've got Black Noir. He's he's not. He doesn't identify anything. So we've got those guys covered. And then he totally outs Maeve, and he's like, well, we have a gay superhero. This one right here, super gay, And it was like, oh man, it was so uncomfortable to watch, but it was so awesome at the same time.
With him is uncomfortable, and that was even because you've seen interviews. I mean, not to that regard, but interviews, like real live interviews, where it's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, dude, I need to turn the channel. I can't watch this.
So yeah.
And just Maeve's face, how she kept it. She barely kept it on.
Oh, she wanted to hit him and just tear him limb from limb.
Yeah, and she was also wondering, okay, what did he do to Elena? And
yeah. Well, she asked. She's like, what did you do to her? Yeah. And he's like, nothing. I mean, not yet. So.
Which, that was the unspoken. Yeah, that was the kind of like.
So then, so go ahead.
No, but he just has that presence where it's just everything about him is. He's like one of those. It's like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
In the sense of who's he going to kill?
And he's the most powerful person on the planet, as far as we know. So then jumping back to that scene with A-Train and Ashley, where A-Train is in there and Ashley's talking about like the charity's like, fat kids, I love fat kids. Send me. And then he walks in and he's like, you're out. Homelander walks in and looks at him like, you're out of the 7. Like, you're not even in the top 20 anymore. Well, how does this make me look? And it was really funny, and like, A-Train's a douche, and I kind of felt sorry for him. But at the same time, it's like, so
that's one of those parallels we see all the time, but it happens all the time in sports where a guy just loses a step or two, and there's definitely those type of conversations, maybe a little bit with more care in some instances, but it's just saying, hey, you just don't have it anymore, and we need the salary cap room, to go in a different direction.
He should have just put a pink tag in his locker and been done with it. Although I feel like he would have walked into Ashley's room and threw the baseball at her head and said, I'm going to get picked up by another team, and then I'm going to come back here, and every time I'm going to throw the ball straight up your butt. That's Major League, if you're not sure. Yeah. So I knew you were, but yeah.
And like he said, you used to bring me coffee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was funny. Like and she's like, I didn't know. Ashley has been a really interesting character this season just because of the level of terror that she's constantly in.
Yeah, she has the doom of Damocles over her head, and she doesn't have the the capital or the confidence or any other things that Elizabeth Shue's character had.
Right.
So,
she's simply a figurehead. Right. She's like the Queen of England. She has no real power. Okay, so then the last Homelander scene was with Stormfront. And Stormfront is giving him a lesson in the New World Order. And it was terrifying. Like, Aya Cash was literally terrifying in these scenes because she's talking to him and he's like, I'm popular in these demos and these demos and these demos. And she's like, you can't get everybody to love you. It's just impossible. And she's like, you've got 50 million fans. I've got 5 million soldiers. You've got people who like you. I have an army. You've got, demos and commercials. I've got a Hulk. It's like
she's like, I got 5 people churning out memes, and I basically feed them with Arby's coupons.
Yeah. So like, it was great. And then I don't know. Did you pause? Did you go back and pause and look at some of those memes?
I actually saw it on. I didn't send it to you. So the boys.
Oh,
Instagram
no.
had the boys. Instagram
There's no way the boys' Instagram had all of them because there were some pretty raunchy ones on there. Like, I was pausing as quick as I could to see them. It was savage. Like, the Homelander ones were savage.
Yeah. So that was, and again, when you rewind a few minutes when you said, Homelander hates himself. He's insecure. So seeing, despite the fact that he says, hey, I got 50 million fans, like you said, and like she said, you're trying to get everybody to love you. And that's just not going to happen. And again, this is another thing that I can compare to a lot of athletes and a lot of entertainers. You have 10 million people saying they love you. And then that 1 or 2 people say, I don't really like you. You're not that talented. Yeah. And that sticks in their head.
That's all they heard.
Yeah. And that's the exact same thing that's happening to a guy who could, bench press trucks.
Yeah.
And,
who can literally burn you in half.
Yes.
With the look of an eye. Yeah. So that was really, really cool to see. And then Stormfront at the beginning of the episode was holding a peaceful protest, legit peaceful protest, and no sense of irony there. In front of Vought, talking about how like Vought is bad and this and Vought is horrible and they have to stand up to Vought, and just takes off after getting everyone riled up. And we got the female Kimiko and Frenchie there. Kimiko was essentially going to her death before Frenchie saved her, and this was only after he kissed her and forced her to kind of run away.
Yeah.
So, but I will say it was good to see Cherry back in the episode and get some speaking lines. She deserves better. Jordan La Jolla, I think, or Lajoie. Jordana. I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Anyway, but I thought Frenchie had some good scenes. He wasn't very much in the episode, although he was getting high, which I totally forgot he did. So
I did too. Right.
And then I think the other big story was there was the total like D storyline of these women who had these interviews talking about relationships. So and weird. It was really strange, and then at the end it paid off because the Church of the Collective is putting the Deep into an arranged marriage to fix his. And the last one, she's all like sensual and aloof, and she's like, oh, I like having sex on the beach and having sex at the top of the Eiffel Tower. And
I like pleasure.
Yeah. I like pleasure to give and receive. And she just had that, annoying like model cadence. Anyway, and then the psychologist is like, oh no, we've picked Candace. You're marrying Candace. And he's like, but I like this one. And they're like, no.
Let's be honest. Candace sounded like the craziest of all of them.
Right? Which one was Candace?
So she was the one that said, I believe when you love someone, you should never let them go.
Right.
And she said it with that psychotic, never let them go, and then she gave the example of the skeleton of the lovers found.
Yep, that's right. So, it was. So the Deep is definitely getting killed by his future arranged wife. Let's put that one out there.
I feel sorry for what his gills are going to go through, probably.
I hope we get more Patton Oswalt as the gills. I know that was just because he was on the drugs, but yeah. All right. So then the big story was MM and Huey and Starfire. I keep wanting to call her Starfire. Starlight had a really interesting road trip down to Raleigh, North Carolina to look for a hero called Liberty. I loved the interaction between the three of them in the car, especially when she's like, do you guys mind if I put on the radio? In 4 stations in a row, it was her song, and she was so fed up. And then they finally got to We Didn't Start the Fire, and those two dorks were singing every word exactly right, going crazy. And then MM shuts the radio off. He's like, this isn't a date, and I'm not your chaperone.
Yeah, which you kind of actually were, but
which he failed miserably at.
Yeah, Huey's look when Starlight starts singing was so good.
His ovaries exploded right there.
Yeah. It just reminded me how much I like those two together.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, those two dorks. and hey, there's nothing wrong with being a dork.
No, there's no shade there. Like, trust me, that We Didn't Start the Fire comes on, I start singing along too. Yeah. So I actually was singing along while I was watching it the first time. So, but they're two dorks.
And again, it wasn't just those two, and they're seen at the candy machine, but I also like Annie and Mother's Milk scene in the donut place.
Well, so
they bond.
Here's the funny thing about that is watching that last night, because I watched it again last night. And after watching, I was just craving donuts. Like, just the two of them talking about like donuts and 31 flavors and stuff. It's like, wow, I really want a donut. So after the gym, I went and got 2 donuts.
Well, see, I'm like the Hulk with donuts. I'm always craving donuts.
Yeah, see, I don't though. Like, I don't get
some.
What?
Didn't you get some a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, for Haley and Angel, and like I ate 2 or 3 of them like over the span of 3 days. But like, I literally was like craving donuts leaving the gym today, and it's like, I just went and I got a cake donut and a chocolate donut.
You know what tomorrow is, we're, as we're recording this on Thursday, Fridays for those, I walk to my local Graders. It's about a half a mile, and I get donuts. So tomorrow I get donuts in the morning.
The Graders by my house tomorrow is doing the cream puffs from Schmidt's Fieldhouse up in Columbus. They are selling them at the Graders by my house tomorrow. And,
that's
and
nice.
I don't know if you've ever had the cream puffs from there. They're amazing. If you guys are ever anywhere near Columbus, Schmidt's, if you like sausage and German style food, definitely go eat there. It's amazing. And if you're in Columbus, just enjoy the restaurants and like the buildings and the niceness, and just avoid the people there, because most of them are Ohio State fans. And
Ohio State fans.
Enough said about that. The only fans worse than Ohio State fans are Notre Dame fans, because they think their team is still relevant. Anyway, so back to the road trip. MM and Annie had a really, really good scene together. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot about MM. We learned a lot about MM just in general in this episode. But the two of them really bonded. I felt, and I think he has a genuine affinity for her as well. Like not like he loves her with all his pants like Huey does, but like I think he kind of left this road trip kind of looking at her like a little sister.
Yeah, and I think like remember what he says about Kamiko when Butcher wants to just kind of, in a couple episodes ago when they were trying to get her brother, and what he says, he's like, "Hey, she's one of us."
Yeah.
And I think this whole road trip, to be honest, puts Annie in that same position.
Yeah.
With the mother's milk.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and the learning more about MM's OCD and Annie calling that out to Huey, and Huey's like, oh, yeah, you're right. He does have OCD.
And it was interesting. We'd never get, and there, the big reveal with Stormfront, but also with Mother's Milk. He talks about the run-in his family had with Vought.
Yeah.
And he's, he quickly brushes over. He's like, which I don't want to get into.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Maybe someday, but not right now.
Right. And again, I know there's some stuff, and it's one of those. This is one of those things, and we've talked about like what are they going to take from the comics and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Which again, I don't think you told me about the mother's milk part.
Yeah, so that's not ever going to be in the comic. So no, and I have to say, so when they finally get to where they find Liberty. They come to a house, and it's a woman named Valerie, played by Dawn Lewis. And if you guys don't remember Dawn Lewis, she was on A Different World. She was one of the students on the floor at Hillman there, and I did not know she was actually the co-composer of the show of the theme song from the Cosby Show.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't think she was that. I'd like but like music, you don't have to be super old to be a composer. It's just something we think. But I always like Dawn Lewis when she shows up in things. So when she showed up, I was like, oh sweet, like it's going to be kind of a low key. So it's going to be like a low-key powerful role that you're going to get out of her. And everything that she does is going to be likable.
Right.
So.
And it was the story she tells and the accompanying visuals that we get.
Yeah. So Myron, her brother, got done dirty by Liberty. So her story, Valerie's story is when she was a little girl, her and her brother were driving, and Liberty, a superhero at the time in the 70s, stops them and accuses Myron of robbing a bank, saying that the car had been involved in a bank robbery, and he was complying. He was saying, "No, I didn't do this. I'm innocent." Like, let's call the police and talk about this. And she crushes his head. And she left him for dead. She left him for dead.
They show it for only a brief moment.
Yeah.
But I was not ready for that. And again, this is a show that we've seen a lot of gross stuff.
That was one of the more gruesome things that we've seen.
Yeah. It was so disturbing. And, we find out that Liberty and Stormfront, one and the same. And I know we had talked about, whether or not they were going to do the, Stormfront.
I don't know if she's going to be a Nazi necessarily. Yeah. I think she will be, because if you kind of look at her costume, it's very Hugo Boss. But
also remember the story that Edgar tells Homelander about how Vought got found. It plays a lot into the whole Nazi thing. So
she's the first hero for sure. So and so I mean the episode ends kind of with the gang getting back to New York, and in the final scene is Homelander and Stormfront having their chat where they appear to come to some form of a tentative alliance. Détente. Yeah, that's a great term. They had a little parlay there where she dropped some knowledge on him, and I'm super excited for what's next.
And did you see the last thing she says? I'm here for with anything that you need.
Yeah.
he almost stumbles for a second,
Right?
Because there was a lot of innuendo in that.
So,
and you know how he is. So
yeah, the last thing when he got Annie in the elevator, did you notice he took his gloves off and was holding her with his bare hands? He has touched very few people with his bare hands throughout the whole series. And I think if he would have been holding her with the gloves, he would have killed her.
That's actually a very good point. Because I noticed that. And they made point to show him putting his gloves by the side to the side.
Yeah, he stuck him in on the rail there.
Right. But I didn't think of it that way you just mentioned, which I think it was a personal thing.
Yeah.
So
I think he got really personal with her, and then that's what kind of stayed her execution, so to speak.
Right. That's something I actually didn't
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just how I took it.
But it also makes sense.
Yeah.
Which again, like you said, they might not have done it for that reason. But from everything we've known and everything we've seen, it makes sense from that.
Right. And I also feel like they don't do a lot just to do it. Everything that they do on the show, because it's a Kripke show, has a reason. Yeah. Speaking
absolutely.
of, did you hear your boy is getting to drive the car home?
Yes.
So
Jensen.
Good on you, Jensen.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, you thought you were getting that car. But no. Anyway, but yeah, so I don't know. This was a really good episode. It was the nice slowdown that we needed to head into the back half of the season.
And more in the last 2 weeks, and we'll see on Friday on this upcoming Friday if it's the same way. But the last 2 weeks has really showed me how much better this is, seeing this from a week to week perspective instead of binging it in a 2-day period.
Yeah, if we would have binged it, it would not be sitting the way it's sitting right now.
No,
100.
Not at all.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to our last topic. We've been going for an hour, so we won't go too terribly deep into this one. Marvel's Avengers on the PS4. Yes, I'm aware it's on other platforms, but we had PS4s. That's what we play our video games on. So we're talking about it from the point of view from the PS4. Actually, I don't own a single thing from Microsoft.
You don't?
No, in all the Microsoft software that I use comes from work. I've never bought Word or Outlook or any of that stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah, I've never been a huge Microsoft fan. For word processing and spreadsheets, I just use the Google ones. The web-based stuff.
Yeah, I'm so culted out with Word because I've used it forever that I've used other ones, and it's just I've never taken the time to just kind of feel them out to see if they're better or not.
So when I started at science fiction, actually no, let me it goes back further. When I was at Think Hero, one of the other writers and I would edit each other's pieces, and we would play a game where we would share a Google Doc, and one of us would start editing and the other would go through, wait a little bit and then go through and try and fix all the changes before the other person got to the bottom of the document. Words with nerds. So anyway, all right. So Marvel's Avengers. Darryl browbeat me into buying this game. I definitely. Well, why don't you share your thoughts on this first, because you have probably 15 more hours into this game than I do.
Oh yeah, I literally have played this every day for the past. Now, granted, sometimes it's only 20 minutes, but most of the time it's not. So I played every day since I got it on the 4th of September. And this is a game, just to go back real quick, where when it first or at the beginning of the year when they did a kind of a trailer for it, I was like, there's no way I'm buying this because it was terrible. The character models were awful. I mean, awful, where it was like Sonic the Hedgehog bad. I don't know if you remember when.
Oh, Sonic from the movie Hedgehog, with the teeth?
Yeah. It was that bad where people were making fun of it. Homelander would have felt better because he would have seen the memes that this game was getting, and he would have felt a little bit better about himself. But they changed things up, and I played the beta.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to get this game. From a story standpoint, and again, this is what again, we talk about this a lot about expectations.
Right.
Some people's expectations is this was going to be the MCU character, because I've seen it like these doesn't look like Black Widow, this doesn't look like Thor or whatever. Look, these are not the MCU characters. This is a whole new story. It has no connection to the MCU.
Why does Nick Fury have hair?
Yeah, that kind of threw me off, because that's a kind of combination of the the original Nick Fury and the Ultimates Nick Fury with the hair thing. So the storyline is that on A-Day, there's huge Avengers. There's a new helicarrier that they're presenting, and it's powered by Terrigen Mist, which comic book geeks know Terrigen Mist is what creates the Inhumans. And there's a terrorist attack led by none other than the Taskmaster, and basically everything goes to shit. We get it from a lot of the perspective from Kamala Khan, who is the player's eyes into this fantastical world of bigger than life gods and men, superheroes, which I must say, when I first heard about the storyline, I thought it was going to just be one of those throwaways and just like whatever. To be honest, I actually, for the most part, there are some issues that I have, big issues with the story, but overall, I absolutely love Kamala Khan, and I'm not sure who the actress is, the voice actress that plays her, but I really like her as a character in this game. I like all the Avengers as characters in this game. So the main campaign is probably about 15 hours or so. I plus or minus, it just depends. But then there's that second half, the Avengers Initiative, and that's where this game is. And for those that have played the game, and I keep bringing this up, is Destiny. And now this is a melee game for the most part, where Destiny is a shooter. But the commonalities are, it's a loot-based game where you're continually finding loot to make your character more and more powerful. And so there's that two parts. There's that campaign, and then that multiplayer aspect. It's not open world like Destiny. In Destiny, you could jump in by yourself, and then you can team up, to kill bosses. It's not that type of game. But from a perspective of, at least for the good parts of it, because there are definitely issues that we can talk about real quick. But I really enjoyed the campaign. I like the voice acting is solid. The gameplay itself, there are 6 characters in there now. Now we'll have more. What I really love is each character plays completely differently than the other characters, which a lot of games that just doesn't happen.
No.
Even Destiny, yes, you have you have your 3 classes that play differently in the sense that they have different abilities, but basically you're having guns. Their skill sets are different, but every single thing about these characters is different. Obviously, Thor and Iron Man right now are the only 2 flyers. They play differently. You have similarities with Cap and Black Widow, but they play a lot differently. So that's one of the things that I really love about this game is because like I told you the other day, I was like, hey, Kamala Khan play. And my problem with games is why I don't get as good as I can say on Tekken is because I like using multiple characters. I don't like when when people say I main with this character. Yeah, I main with about 9 characters on Tekken. That's why I'm never going to be as good as I can be because I'll play 3 games with one character and get bored.
So I like overpowering one character and playing as that character. And so far for me, it's been Kamala Khan. One, she's got a bunch of the range stuff with the stretchy hands. She embiggens, and she's as powerful as the Hulk or the Hulkbuster when she embiggens, which is cool. And she can swing like Spider-Man with on almost any ledge, so you can get away really quick and regroup and jump right back in. And she's got the power to restore her energy. Yes,
which I love, the healing spirit. And again, this is a game where some of the complaints I heard, some of the complaints I would say I don't take, I don't give a lot of credence to is, it's repetitive. Every single game that you play is repetitive in some way, shape, or form.
I don't feel like it's that repetitive.
Well, I mean, I'm just talking about a lot. Some of the complaints. Any loot-based game is repetitive. Any first-person shooter is repetitive. Any fighting game is repetitive. And I'm somebody that's for all my life pretty much have played all these type of games. Very few games are non-repetitive. There's a role-playing game when you're trying to level up. Those you do repetitive things. When you're grinding, that's repetitive.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say the issues are, there are some connectivity issues. There are a lot of bugs in the sense of the game freezing. One of the things I told you about the other day is that I had this very difficult boss fight with Abomination, kicking my ass, and I finally it was not. I'm sorry, not Abomination, but it was Taskmaster. I beat him. I start, I hear them, when you beat a boss, they'll start, the part of one of the other, NPCs starts talking to you about whatever was that mission. So I go in the other room and go in the kitchen, get something to drink, and I come back. I'm like, okay, I don't hear anything. And then I look at the screen. It's the blue screen because the game crashed. So a lot of people are having issues with game crashes, which now it seems like the more technologically advanced things get, the more these games do this. And again, this is a thing that a lot of these games are having over the last few years, where you have these technical glitches, and Madden is an example of that. When we
WWE 2K, like the last one,
about that
was
last week.
Was
yeah.
awful, to the point where they skipped to 2K21.
Right.
Yeah, so I haven't so I've run into a couple glitches that were minor, nothing that made my PS4 crash. But I think what we forget is when they make these games, they're literally in a lab. They're on usually a fresh machine that has no wear and tear to it, that doesn't have 500 gigabytes of games on there, and just usage, a dusty fan, or that's than
true too.
So and so they don't test that. So then when you get into it, because I know my PS4 is in a place where it's got plenty of airflow, and it sounds like it's gonna take off when I'm playing the Avengers game.
Mine does too.
Whereas when I'm playing other things, it's quiet as a church mouse.
Yeah, and the only other game that mine hums like this is when I'm playing Modern Warfare. So some of those points are definitely valid. We all and again, a lot of games, and what I did read, one of the community managers on Reddit the other day for this game did say there's going to be a major patch coming. Yeah. Hopefully by the end of this week, which again, we're filming it, or we're recording this on Thursday, so hopefully we get it tonight or tomorrow sometime, because when we talk about language a lot, you hear it in the world and politics, where people are using things that aren't true, or just you overhyping something, or making a definition that it's not. When people say this game is unplayable, that's just absolutely
no, that's not even true. This game is fun, right? It's fun.
I'll let me back up.
Oh.
Certain individuals may be having problems that are unplayable, literally unplayable. So I'm not going to because I've heard instances, not with this game, but with other games, that have bricked people's systems. So that's something other than itself. But people, especially on the internet, like to overindulge on what's actually happening. There are definitely issues with this game. You cannot deny it from a technical standpoint, from a glitch standpoint. But to say this game is unplayable is just not true. To say this game is repetitive, if you ever played any type of loot-based game, this plays exactly like that. You play Diablo, you play any of these games, you're doing the same thing over again, just in different ways. So that's not one of that. I don't prescribe. I don't recognize that as a valid complaint.
So
100%.
You love The Witcher 3.
Yes.
I feel like that game's super repetitive.
And again, there are parts of The Witcher where I love that game, one of my favorite games of all time. But you have to grind, and sometimes that grind is very annoying. It is.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for The Witcher to go play the card game and to look under every rock and You know,
Yeah, I didn't play the card game, so
yeah,
that's the one part of The Witcher I didn't do.
And so like with this one, you know, more often than not, like if I'm Iron Man, I just fly right through to where I have to go. I don't even fight anybody until I have to fight someone. Right? I don't like, you know, and because like the enemies at the beginning of the board do not follow me to the place that I have to hack, you know, and so I just go and I set up and stand my ground. Plain and simple. With Kamal, I do the same thing. I go to where I have to go and I set up, you know, as ranged attack as I can in the middle of a melee.
One thing I like doing, and again, I am one of those that games like this are made for. Like you said with The Witcher, for example. I love those little question marks when you bring up your map. I'm like, and that's the problem why all these RPGs or games like this I spend so much time on, because once I'm like I'm like a dog that sees a squirrel. When I see a question mark on a map, like, oh, I have to go to it. But my main mission is over. I don't care. I have to go to it. And this game is the same way. So when you hit the directional pad up, you can see some of the question marks. It's, again, not as deep as The Witcher, but I'm like, okay, it's 300 meters in the opposite direction I'm supposed to go. Yeah, let's go. So this game is tailor made for me, and the whole they just dropped an epic. Oh, they dropped a legendary. So this game is made for people like me who like the nice shiny objects, and like I do like the grind.
Yeah. My only complaint is that it's not open world.
And I will say that's the issue. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Again, going back to expectations.
Well,
because
I
didn't read a lot.
We're so used to the Arkham games, right?
Yes.
And it kind of looks like the Arkham games, maybe not as polished. And the gameplay feels kind of like the Arkham games, again with less cutscenes. But it's not a Rocksteady game, and you can tell. Right.
And and even from and again, as much as I love the combat and I think it's great, other than some of this, have you had issues with slowdown where you have a bunch of characters on screen and the screen just kind of like goes half speed for a second or two?
No, I haven't noticed that, but like part of that, like I've got like the perfect evade down, right? So that slows everything down. So it may be slowing down, but like I'm also evading, and I might be thinking it's perfect evade, and it's not.
And again, this is not and again, it's sometimes it gets bad with a lot on screen, but again, Destiny had that issue. Any game with, and again, one of the things you mentioned, what is your system performance issue? Because I've had my PS4 for 6 years now. I think 6 years. So it's not like you said, it's not like right out of the box, perfect settings and all that stuff. It's got a little wear and tear on it. So some of that is probably on my end, but the other part is, the game is it does need some tweaks in that regard. But overall, I really enjoy this game. I find myself, after doing the missions, like, man, I love this game. It's so much, playing as Iron Man, Captain America, Thor.
Like that trench run you had to do as Iron Man was really cool, and fun. And I like that was one where I tried to destroy everything first before I realized there was a clock. But like, I mean, I don't normally play. Like, I play sports games. I play Rocket League. I play Star Wars games. That's kind of like how I roll. Like, I love racing games, things like that. But I did really enjoy what I've played so far, and I'll definitely keep playing. Like, I actually like this better than Spider-Man.
I don't know, man. The one thing, and again, you mentioned it. The one thing Spider-Man definitely has over. I think Spider-Man's combat was more polished, but the open
it's
world
just one
aspect
player.
Of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's just one player.
Yeah.
Like if Spider-Man was open, if Spider-Man wasn't open world, like I would complain, because I'd like to just take the heroes off and like test their powers. The other thing I always forget to do is update my skill tree. So when it does come time, like it's like, oh, I can update my skill tree. I usually have like 12 points to use.
I like doing that too.
So, but it's not
I wait
because
till I have.
it's not because I did it on purpose. I just forget to do it.
Oh, okay. See, I do it on purpose. I like having 5 or 6 skill points and like, oh yes.
And then
Where
I
do
guess
wanna
I'm
go?
supposed to sell stuff or dismantle stuff.
Yeah, dismantle stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, which I've yet to do. You
No,
know,
like, oh, it's all in the inventory, like the
Yeah.
inventory thing. Yeah.
yeah, my locker's like always full.
Yeah. You should see my locker in Destiny 2. It's insane. I mean, Destiny has so much gear though, which that's another thing. But I like dismantling and getting.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This game, what you were saying is so true. You like building like just overpowering one character. And that's the thing. That's the kind of like loot-based games. That's how it is. You're trying to find the best gear, and looking at basically the fine print where it's like, okay, what is it? What percentage chance of doing this, that, or the other? Like this one, and I think this might be patched, but I was on Reddit today on the the subreddit for this, and this guy took a picture of this gear where it says you take 0.01% damage if you're under 25% health.
Huh.
So basically he's like, I have the real invincible Iron Man, and he showed, he circled this, and again, that is a little much. That should be patched. It should not be anything. So basically I just get down to 25% and I'm basically invulnerable.
Huh.
So but that's the fun of mixing and matching, and that's what I love. And again, that was one of the things I loved about Destiny, despite some of the issues I had with Destiny. I love that mixing and matching with gears. Like, how can I get the most powerful character based on the gear scores and everything like that? So
Right. Yeah, like on the Marvel, the mobile Contest of Champions game, like the first like player I got, like that was like a 4-star player or 5-star player that I was able to start like updating on like a regular basis. I totally just started updating as much as I could, so I got to the point where I had I think it's Magic is the player. Oh no, it's Psylocke, who's my most powerful player, followed by Gamora, then Quake, then Magic. So and it's because I just like the way those 4 characters play. They're always on my team. So but yeah, no, I get it. So I like it. I like I said, I enjoy the game. I think it's fun. I definitely, if I were a single guy who didn't have family stuff to do and a one-wheel to ride, I would play it a whole lot more.
Yeah, I take lunch breaks sometimes. Like, so when I work from home, so I'll have a lunch break and say, hey, you know what? Let me do a quick mission, and quick mission is like 30 minutes long. Yeah. So, but yeah.
So I like the voice actors that they've got for the characters.
Don't sit on my couch. You're still on my list.
Right. Like I feel like they've done a really good job capturing like who these characters are in context to not just the MCU but to the comic books and the characters.
Especially Thor to me, because he sounds more like he does in the comics than he does in the MCU.
Yeah, see, I haven't opened Thor yet. I think he's probably next after Black Widow.
I believe, yes.
Because I imagine, spoilers, Captain America is going to get resurrected at some point in the game. So that's kind of his thing. But now, like, I think, too, there were a lot of people complaining about the addition of Kamala Khan. And I don't... So Marvel Comics is... has an agenda for things. We know this. And they're pushing a certain agenda for things. But, like, Kamala Khan's an interesting character. She's an Inhuman who was a Captain Marvel fangirl who saw that she wasn't, like, she's kind of like Tim Drake in a way. Like, she understood, like, hey, there's this hero persona that's not going used. I understand the importance of this character. Let me use it. And I think a lot of people who only know these characters from the MCU don't get who she is and why she is the way she is. Like Captain Marvel is a new thing. She was Ms. Marvel for 30 years.
For the longest time.
And so like I think the movie made a huge I've said this. I think the movie made a huge mistake jumping straight to Captain Marvel. There was a whole journey to get there that the Brie Larson version didn't earn. But Kamala Khan is an interesting character. I really enjoyed her in the comic Champions, the relaunch of the Champions series. Whereas her and Miles, it was kind of like the diversity Avengers. It was her and Miles and Amadeus Cho and the time displaced Cyclops, and Vision's daughter. And I forget who else. There was someone else that I'm forgetting.
Chavez in there?
No, it was Nova. Sam, the Hispanic Nova, from who was in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. But here's the thing: is at no point were they like constantly patting themselves on the back for diversity. It was just they were a group of teenage heroes who, after the second Civil War storyline, became disenfranchised with the heroes and said, "We're going to show you guys how to do this right," and they did. And it was interesting.
And again, we've talked about this plenty of times. Is I don't necessarily care about the message as long as how it's delivered is in service to the story.
Yeah,
that's all that I want. And a lot of people don't realize, purposefully or ignorantly, don't realize that's what a lot of us are saying when we say, "What is we're doing this again? This SJW thing." It's not necessarily just that. And again, because you introduced me to Miles Morales, for example. I love Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I love Kamala Khan in this story. I haven't read much about her in the comics, but in the Avengers game, I really love how they do that and how they play on that fangirl.
So,
and that's a perfect introduction.
You hear the term, like especially around Kamala and Miles, you hear the term tokenism. So Kamala Khan is a new character. She's a new character who took up the mantle of a character's name that wasn't being used for a reason, right? Miles Morales got bit by a spider, didn't know what to do, kind of met Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe right before he died. And Peter was like, "Hey, you need to carry this on. I'm dying, go be Spider-Man." Death rattle, done. And Miles is he's an interesting character. I think, like much of Bendis's later work in his career, it's not super well thought out. I think other people will be more successful with Miles Morales in the next 20 years than Brian Bendis has been. I think Spider-Verse, while I thought Spider-Verse was good, it is not the best Spider-Man movie by any stretch of the imagination. It will be a footnote in Miles Morales' career as a hero in multiple mediums.
Yeah, I absolutely love Into the Spider-Verse, and again, I don't think it's the best Spider-Verse. I don't think it's the best movie in the Spider-Verse, but I love Miles Morales as a character, and just I like the dynamic. And yes, he was created for the fact, I know he was created for diversity's sake.
Yeah, but it was in the Ultimate Universe. It was different. It was a completely different timeline with completely different versions of characters, and it made sense for where it was.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I get that he was created for diversity. Just because something is created for a specific, like for in this instance for diversity, doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean it didn't go without thought, because a lot of times that's what it seems like. Some of these characters are created, without even thinking. It's like, just, hey, let's just take this moniker, or let's just take this character and gender bend, or whatever you want to call it. Miles Morales doesn't seem that way to me. He's never seen that way.
Well, it's like taking a character like Iceman, right? Who for 70 years has been a certain way, and then Brian Bendis makes him gay. Just on a whim, for no reason, for nothing else. Just I want to add diversity to the X-Men, which is ridiculous. There's the beauty of the X-Men is you can always make a new character, and characters from the X-Men take off. Like, I think Quentin Quire is one of the best X-Men characters in the last 15 years. Like, and he's not an old character. He's great. He's powerful. He's a telepath. he's actually strong enough to hold the Phoenix Force, but the Phoenix Force doesn't want anything to do with him. So, it's yeah, so there's just a lot of that kind of stuff out there where it's like, just kind of like you guys are creative. Be creative.
Yeah, it's supposed to be creative.
So,
be creative, right? So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, it's like we talked about. People always complain about Superman being boring. Superman's not boring. Superman's just hard to write. Yeah. Because you have to think about it. You have to come up with something that isn't mundane and
You're the one that sent me the article about the guy saying that about, just Superman's not boring. It was a few weeks ago.
I think so,
might
yeah.
have been in Bounding in a comment.
Yeah, I sent that to you.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's like when people say I'm bored, and generally speaking, that's just a lack of imagination.
Yeah, then pick up a book.
And when saying a character is boring, that means you just don't have the imagination to put him or her in a situation or circumstance that is interesting.
Like Wonder Woman is an infinitely interesting character, but they have to use it right. Batman is an infinitely interesting character, but they have to use it right. I think the problem that these creators and I think this goes for Marvel. I'm going to tie this into Marvel's Avengers, is they get stuck with one particular version of the mythology of a character, and that's what they run with. In the case of Superman, it's been the ridiculous Richard Donner Superman movies, which I respect. For being the first Superman movie is amazing. I still enjoy it to this day, but it set up another flawed universe. The MCU is popcorn movies. These aren't groundbreaking films. They're not changing the world. If anything, they're tilting genres on their ear, but at the end of the day, they're still just superhero movies that are meant to go eat popcorn and enjoy yourself and escape for 2.5 to 3 hours at a time.
Yeah, and that's what movies should be for me. That's what I'm looking for in these movies.
Like Black Widow, for example, in this game is really cool. And, she's closer to Black Widow in the comics than she is the Black Widow in the movies. Like she's calling them idiots and, she's not afraid to kill people and she's just awesome. Whereas like the Black Widow movie that's coming out, I don't know if you saw this, the director said she was the only Avenger who didn't have superpowers.
I saw that.
So half of there's 6 Avengers. Half of them don't have powers. Just, you start throwing Ant-Man in there, Wasp in there, Rhodey in there, Falcon in there. Like that's the cool thing about Marvel characters. A lot of times it's just a suit that makes them what they are. Kind of like the greatest American hero. And so it's
But hey, no, that's not true. Remember, hey, if you can't do it, if you're nothing without the suit, you don't deserve the suit.
Yeah, but he had superpowers, so he can be whatever he wants to be. He's like he's like a bender in Korra, where the benders are the ruling class, and the non-benders are subjugated.
Jeez, that's kind of depressing.
It's dark.
Now.
No, you gotta watch Korra. It's great. Like the whole the political drama of Korra is great. But yeah, so I have enjoyed the story that I've gotten through so far in the game, and I've enjoyed playing the missions. I don't like the cut screens of being on the Quinjet, going back and forth. Like I don't need to travel in real time, dudes. Just send me back to the helicarrier or back to the anthill. I don't need to fly everywhere I need to go. They introduced a character who opens up portals. Once that character shows up in the game, the Quinjet should be a thing of the past, unless you have to fly the Quinjet on a mission.
Yeah, just bring Theo. Yeah. Just have Theo take us wherever. But I like this game. I'm curious to see how they're going to handle the in-game content, such as the new characters, because again, we already know Spider-Man's coming. We know Hawkeye's coming.
I mean, Hawkeye has a room on the helicarrier, so
we know Kate Bishop is coming. So I'm really interested to see, and as long as they continually make these characters unique and not just make them skins, like for example, some of the characters from say Mortal Kombat. as long as they keep making them unique, I am all in for this game, and it's going to get better from a technical standpoint. That we know that they're going to put patches in here and there. We know that. I'm just concerned as long as, and again, as long as they keep microtransactions to being cosmetics only, nameplates, and then outfits and skins like that, I am fine, and I will be with. And one of the issues and with Destiny is they had this fear of missing out type thing where they would run all these contests for a month and you couldn't get the gear after that month, no matter what. And sometimes it could be some of the most powerful gear there was. So if you went out of town for work or something and you lost the chance. So I'm hoping they don't go this route with some of the stuff that we do or some of the gear that we have here.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm really liking my experience with this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I agree. I've enjoyed playing it so far, and I'm excited to dig deeper. I will say I do not think this is a game you need to rush out and buy right now. I think you can wait. You can wait 6 months for this game to get right, and buy it for $20, and it would be a fantastic investment at $20. I think at $60, we are paying to get to that $20 game.
Yeah, and we're paying to be like the first,
which is
at least
fine.
I was.
Whatever,
again, So because I really wanted it, after I played the beta again, I played the beta for 10 hours or something like that. So I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Yep.
But if I didn't play the beta, I might have been less excited to take that chance.
Yeah.
So
cool.
That's one reason I like the betas, because gives me opportunity to see what I'm playing.
Awesome.
So.
All right. Well, on that note, I think that's the show this week.
Yeah.
Watch The Boys, play Marvel's Avengers in 4 to 6 months. Check out the Mandalorian trailer. Pedro Pascal needs to grow up and be a man. Thanks Julian Brown for being a Patreon. Thank you for all you guys who listen. Check us out at infamouspodcast.com. There's links to everything in there. If you want to support the show, head to infamouspodcast.com, click on shop, and buy a shirt from the Flying Pork Apparel shop that we have. We have, I think, 6 shirts up that you can buy. They're all really cool. I'm kind of partial to just the one that says Infamous, like the Supreme logo. But yeah.
Every time you say that Infamous, I think of the game. Which again, they need to do an Infamous game.
Well, I imagine there'll be a PS5. We didn't even talk about the PS5.
No, we didn't.
All right, well, we'll talk about PS5 next week because it was kind of a clusterfuck. Anyway, on that note, we'll see you guys next week. Any last words?
Nope. Just like you said, catch up on The Boys if you haven't already. I'm looking forward till Friday.
Yep.
Friday morning.
Tomorrow for us.
Yep.
So, and we'll be back with another episode of The Boys next week and some other cool stuff. See you later. Bye.
See ya.
The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, with new episodes out every Sunday. You can find more information about the show online at infamouspodcast.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @infamouspodcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcatching app. If you're enjoying the show, consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/infamouspodcast for our new tiers and rewards. The Infamous Podcast is hosted and produced by me, Brian Tudor, with music provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. You can find me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @BrianTudor. So, whenever you're listening to the show, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Later.